Welcome to another episode of my podcast, That's Fine With Me. Today we're going to be talking about bullies, and I know this is a very sensitive topic. I was a victim, not even a victim, but in a sense, I was, I guess, a target of a bully in different places, and I would say I always try to stand for myself, and I always involved my parents and other authorities in any situations that I happen to be in. And I'm going to start with the fact that sometimes you think bullies are someone who are not grown-ups. So these are kids and they're going to outgrow themselves. Unfortunately, this is not true because according to different surveys, 31% of Americans, they faced bullying when they were adults. And it was conducted over a 1-year study, and 31% is pretty much a lot. You can see bullying everywhere. If you think that bullying can be only at school, it's wrong, because your partner that you married can be pretty much a bully, as well as a politician or influencer, some celebrity that you follow, such as Ryan Reynolds. Maybe you know a boss that is manipulating people and taking control with the power. This all are examples of bullies. And I would say that most of the time they know they have power over you, and you can't get against these people. Or you can, but they're trying to pick someone who has not only less power, but probably not going to get involved in any drama. And they try to spot the victim and then try to act on that. But sometimes they might be wrong. And sometimes they can get into situations like Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, when they pick the wrong victim and they now have the consequences of their own actions. So what you can see from a perspective of, for example, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, that they are getting accountable for their actions, because finally people can see through them and they can show them that you were wrong. And people are not bullying this couple, but specifically mentioning that it's not okay to behave this way and to be a bully. That's why you have to address this issue. And I guess this is the ultimate way to fight a bully, is to make sure that they have consequences of their own actions. But he would say they're smart. They're really smart. And of course, they're not going to jeopardize themselves with some actions where it's going to be easy to prove that they're the bullies. Not always, but sometimes you have to be smarter, or sometimes you have to quit the situation and just not associate with the company or with this marriage any longer, because you know that this is not that you want for you. Another great, I guess, example is that people say only kids are bullies, and it's not true, but it's where it starts. I would say a lot of the times bullies, they are coming from schools and they're coming from kindergarten. To make sure how your kid is going to respond to the bullying, you can probably talk to your kid and say that it's not okay to stay quiet, to stay silent in the situations, because it actually can get worse, and kids or even grown-ups can commit suicides. They can have depression, severe situations when they have a lot of problems in their lives because they're just staying quiet and they're not addressing this issue. So what I say is bullies, they're coming from probably really low self-esteem, and sometimes they try to mimic a behavior from a family member or maybe their cousins, someone that they adore and they want to be like. It can be an influencer and they feel like, oh, he's acting really cool because he's bullying other people or she's bullying other people. I want to be the same. I want to be powerful and influential. The way I can do this is to mimic the behavior of this person. Most of the time when we see the difference between adults and bullies from schools or kindergartens, the school bully is most of the time someone who has power with the parents' money, who is pretty much rich and can probably feel like they can do whatever they want. Or second option, when this bully is more fitted or taller, stronger than you, and they know that you're going to be afraid because you're smaller, you're probably a little bit less confident in yourself or not confident at all. That is the main reason why parents, they should start this process when your kid is young and very, very small. So you have to observe the patterns of behavior. You can probably see that your kid is bullying others when they are on a playground, just like observing that your kid is taking someone's toys and probably kicking kids. First and foremost, of course, you have to talk to your kid, but if you know that it's not working and the group your kid is picking is probably someone violent and aggressive, then always try to suggest a psychologist or someone who is going to find what is the issue and problem with this kid. What is the attention-seeking problem right there? Or if you have a kid who's always very like into the situation, suppressed and kicked into, and the kid that struggles, this is a little bit different kind of situation. First and foremost, you have to make sure that your kid is trusting you and make sure that can share all this experience, like bad experience or good experience with you as a parent. So you are a trustworthy person, a trustworthy parent. This is a relationship that I had with my mom, and I always was pretty open about anything that happened in my school and with my friends. My mom always knew, and she still knows, all of my friends, all of my group mates, classmates that I had relationship with, and I really appreciate the fact that she always listened to everything that I told her. And that was beneficial not only for my mom as a parent, because she was pretty much not getting stressed about situations like where am I, who am I talking to. I always shared this because I knew that my mom would support me. So you have to make sure that you have a foundation when you talk to your kid. And then, funny to say, but my mom always tried to teach me how to answer bullies. It can be, if this is a verbal abuse, she always tried to teach me some universal phrases that I can probably apply and say back to a bully and say, I don't know, something that would bring me closure and at least make sure that I can stand for myself. And this person is going to make sure that it's not so easy to target me and I'm not going to stay quiet. Other things, my mom said that if someone gets physical with me, she always tried to show me some of self-defense mechanism that I can apply again in this type of relationship. She said like eyes, nose, and throat, and especially the area of genitalia, especially for men, is one of the, I guess, key benefits when you have not even willing, like some contact that you're not okay with. So you can probably just like punch. It doesn't have to be something crazy, just like punch to distract this person, and then she says run. It always was this way. If you know that this person is stronger, this person is, you're not gonna be able to defend yourself, and you know that you're gonna be beaten up, so you distract this person with one with really hard motion and you run away. And especially if there's so many other guys or girls with like among this company, you just have to distract one of them. And it works with a sand if you have any sand, or with like small, probably like stones, not even stones, but something to throw in their eyes and run away. This is probably that's something that my mom taught me all the time, that I have to be aware of my surroundings and I have to be aware that situations can happen. Right now, I have a pepper spray with me every single time I go around, and I know that if anything happens, at least I have this as my protection, and then I have to run. So this is really important for you as a parent or someone that you're dealing with, and you know that you're scared for your kid, to make sure that they know how to defend themselves in verbal abuse or in physical abuse. Now we're going to get started with a little bit different story. I want to share my experience, what really happened. So I did have a couple of situations where I was abused at school, and that was the main reason why my mom transferred me to some other school. And I'm just going to share some situations that really helped me out in the situations. So first and foremost, I had a really great relationship with my classmates from my age, like from the grades, first and fourth. But when I was 11 and we went to fifth grade, I had a new girl that I wanted to be a friend with. Not even wanted, just we kind of clicked. We started communicating, and then I realized that this person was very, very weird, in a sense that she was cursing her grandma. She was very cruel to her brother, younger brother, and she was mean and nasty. And I didn't really like the attitude. So one day, it was really easy for me. I came over her and said, you know what? I don't want to be your friend any longer. So thanks, but no, we're not going to be friends. And she said, like, maybe you're going to think over, going to think through this decision, and this Monday during weekends, you're going to change your mind and you're going to say if you want to be my friend on Monday. And I said, okay. So on Monday I came and I said, you know what? I still don't really want to be a friend. I don't really like this dynamic. I don't really like how you treat people. So we're not going to be friends. And she started being nasty, because it's really hard for someone to understand that if you always was a bully, if you always was rude to others, it's difficult to understand them that, you're not desirable anymore and people don't want to be friends with you. And she started doing a lot of things. And one of the examples, she wrote my name on the wall, and she wrote like sex by the phone and my family number. I remember coming into the dressing room. It was right after PE, and a lot of girls, they told me, you know what, she wrote your number. And the thing that I did immediately, I didn't really care whatever people would say about me and my behavior at this point. I just went straight to my teacher and I said, she wrote my name and my family number, and she said like sex by phone. Sex on the phone, I don't know. And he made her to go and take off everything that was on those walls. So she stayed after classes and she spent 2 or 3 hours cleaning all those walls. And of course, it didn't actually stop there. First and foremost, I told my mom, so every single person was aware of the situation, my classmates, my teacher, and my mom. Then she started calling me at home and she would say that I'm a whore or something like this and to just drop the phone. But we had early 2000s, we had a really fancy phone that could probably just like show you the number that was called from. And I was sitting there, remember, just because it wasn't the first incident when she was trying to gaslight me, bully me, and do whatever, and verbal abuse, I would say. And my mom, she saw that I was crying, and she took control of this situation. And I'm super grateful for this. Sometimes you have to rely on your parents, and when someone tells you, like, you have to deal with your issues by yourself, I was 11. No, your parents, they have to be involved if someone is dumb and don't really want to leave you alone. So my mom, she called her. And she was calling from a house of a newcomer, I guess, that we had 3 more girls that came to the class this year. So my mom, she called there, and this girl, she picked up the phone and she's like, oh, you know what? This girl left. And my mom, okay, I don't really buy this bullshit. And she said that if she doesn't call me back, I'm going to go and report to the police, teachers, that it's just a real abuse and abusive behavior. And she scared the crap out of her and she just like dropped the phone. In a couple of minutes, this girl, she called back and she tried to say like, oh, this is not my fault and whatever. And my mom said like, I will make sure that every single authority is aware of the behavior that you're doing. And what happened next, that my mom, she called her mom, but her mom, she wasn't home. That's why her grandma picked up the phone, and her grandma said that, yeah, she's cursing me, she's closing the door right in front of my face, she's actually fighting me. And my mom realized that her mom, she was a psychologist, and she said, you know what, my kid is a grown-up, she's 11 years old, and she can deal with her problems herself. She has to figure things out herself. I'm not going to get into the situation. And when every single time grandma tried to bring up the situation and try to share some concerns, she's like, she's a grown-up, she can deal herself. And that moment, my mom realized that it's not going to stop, it's going to progress further, and she stopped for some period of time, but my mom, she knew that it's going to continue later. That is the main reason why she transferred me to some other school. And it's funny to say, but in 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, 2 or 3 years, she was expelled from school because she was caught at being a thief. She was stealing things, basically. She was smoking on the porch of the school. She was drunk. She was attending classes. She had some drinking problem as well. And yeah, so you can tell that unfortunately, sometimes it can be resolved easily and you have to take actions, and this person was expelled. Then later, actually, she called me back, I guess 3 years later. She wanted some, I don't know, revenge or something like this. And we just talked briefly for 2 minutes, and my mom said like, why did she call you back? And I said, I have no idea. So then I went to a new school, and I wasn't bullied there, but 2 of my friends were. One of my friend, again, she faced similar situation. She was a huge fan of Tokyo Hotel. And one other girl, she was a huge fan of Tokyo Hotel as well, and she thought that she owned the group. That is the main reason why every single time she saw someone else being a fan, she would go and not only bully verbally this person or like verbally abuse this person, but she was always like making sure that she would actually beat the person. She would actually fight the person. And with my friend, it started with verbal abuse. Then she started taking her, stuff and just throwing this around. And then she was threatening to the point like, I'm going to beat you up. So my friend always was very like shy and she didn't want to speak up. That is the main reason why my other friend and I, we took the initiative and we went to a teacher, and we said that it's not the first time. This had been happening for some period of time, and my teacher took action. You don't really understand how crazy my teacher went. She went overboard, honestly, and she protected my friend. This girl was never in the picture ever when my teacher took care of it. And that is the main reason why you have to involve other people in the situation to make sure that you can seek for help. And if this bullies say like, don't say a word to anyone, or I'm gonna like do this and that to you, that is just a manipulation. Say this to as many people as possible. Bring the awareness to as many people as you can and as many authorities as you can. It doesn't really matter if you have any sorts of evidence for now, but make sure that they know if anything is going to happen, they're going to be aware of the situation. And my other friend, she was bullied, but it was a little bit different kind of a story. I remember she got a new iPod, and the color was like very bright pink. So when she got a new iPod, some girl, like popular girl from my class, she had the same color iPod, and she thought that my friend purchased it because she was mimicking her. And it started the bullying process. I think it wasn't even the reason. I think they just wanted to find a reason, and they found it. And they started like saying like, oh, you're a copy, you're this and that. And another great way is that my other friend, she was never afraid to speak up. And she was like, do you own the company? Do you own the color? I don't understand. And she was very vocal about all of it. She was always vocal. And if she had to pick up the fight, she would pick up the fight. And they realized in a month or so that it wasn't worth it. So they just left her alone. And I would say that we have 3 different situations, but at the same time, it can work when you involve other people, or you can stand up for yourself and you make sure that this bully knows that you're not a victim, you're not a target, and you can actually fight for yourself. And they feel like they don't hold this power over you, and that's why they just find a new victim and they find a new person. The next situation happened when I went to college, and I had 5 or 6 girls. They thought they were like super cool, and by the way, they were like future teachers. And they tried to bully me because I was always not only different, but I was pretty much vocal about things that I was disagreeing with. I said, why do I have to do this if you don't do that? So I was like bringing the awareness that everything has to be equal and we are all equal. And they didn't really like this concept. They thought like, we're here popular girls and we're gonna make our own rules. And I said, no, you don't have this opportunity to make your own rules. And they didn't really like it. So of course I had to stand up for myself. I didn't bring a lot of my mom. It was just my situation where I had to know where my boundary is, and I have to stand up for myself. But still, my mom knew everything about the situations and she was aware of everything that was going on. But it wasn't always like, it was never extreme to the point where authorities had to be involved. That is the main reason why last year, 2024, we had the 10th anniversary when I graduated my college. I was 19 when I graduated college. We have different system in Russia, and especially when it was early 2000s and maybe 2010s. So I graduated in 2014, and in 2024 they invited me to this anniversary. They were actually inviting me over and over again, but I never showed up. So when they actually DM'd me, some of this kind of like bully girls, or the girl that picked the side of a bully, DM'd me and said like, oh, you should come and whatever. Like at first it was like, I don't know, I'm gonna check my schedule. And then later I said, you know what? That's my mom's birthday. I don't want to come. I'm not going to come. And I knew that the majority of the people that came to this anniversary every single year, these people were bullies. And honestly, I don't want to feed them any stories like how successful I am, if I'm not successful, if I am successful, what was my journey. I don't really care about that. I don't want to see these people. They were traumatizing for some period of time, and to get back and get through the situation, because I know, just again, you think that they're going to, overgrow themselves, but no, they actually had a couple more victims that they made fun of or put some jokes. And, when they added me into this group chat and talking about the anniversary and their plans, where they're going to meet and celebrate this moment, this girl, she was in this group and they were still making fun of her in not such a subtle way, but still they were making fun of her. And I'm like, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. And you're still bullies and you're bitches. So I skipped this anniversary, and later I had my first job where I got my first ever nervous breakdown, because my boss, she was crazy. She was crazy at the point that every single person was afraid of her. At least maybe 90% of people were afraid of her, because she was like the boss's boss's boss. At some point she wasn't the main person, like the main CEO, but she was kind of like really powerful as well. And the problem wasn't that she was spiteful or mean. She was just not controlling the fact she was screaming at people and making them do something like irrelevant because she thought that was important. But people, when they try to speak up and say like, we don't really have to do this, she again screamed at them. And I didn't have time to have my lunch sometimes because she didn't let me do that. And I had to stay up until 7 p.m. when my shift started at 8 a.m. And sometimes I just had to stay very late, and I had a job from Monday to Friday, and it always was almost like a 12-hour shift. And with verbal abuse, only verbal abuse, there was another person who was verbally abusing me, and she was like, how are you dressing? How are you talking? And oh my God, at your age, I had kids, and why don't you have kids? something like this, I knew that I couldn't say anything. First and foremost, because one of my, let's say, relatives made sure that I had this job. Not like made sure, but like asked if I could have this job because I was inexperienced. I was right from the university and no one really wanted to hire me. And I was really grateful. That is the main reason why I didn't want to stir the pot and I didn't actually want to have any drama because my relative asked for this job for me. And at the same time, I knew that I couldn't work in this area for a long period of time. And every single day was in agony. And I was a personal assistant, by the way, of this person. So I couldn't actually dissociate myself from the situation because I was directly into this situation every single day. And I had a nervous breakdown and I made a decision to just quit this job. And I've never been happier in my life. And I would say that my husband and my mom, they supported me at first, like for the first, I guess, 3 months, they were like, you have to just like, don't pay attention. This is your first job. You need experience. You couldn't find a job for a long period of time. You just have to be patient. I was like, okay. And this verbal abuse was never stopped. And especially, I know that person knew that this person had power over the stuff. And that was the main reason why I could afford this type of behavior. So my decision was to quit. And later, of course, like after the nervous breakdown, my mom and my husband, they supported me and they supported my decision fully. And then it was good. I got my job at the embassy a year later only. But, I know that not every single person has this privilege to stay home and find a job that they really want to and have this financial support from a spouse or your parents. I know it's not going to be the case for every single person. But if you can at least start looking for a job in a little bit different field, and if you can probably earn less but still focus on your career, or at least find this as a different kind of like job to look for a better job in the future, I guess this is a great decision. Because if you know that you can't even file a complaint to your HR because your boss's boss's boss is like almost the CEO of the company, and you can't just file this toward the CEO, and you know that you're going to just definitely lose this fight. I guess, the best decision is just to save your mental health and quit this job. That is just my recommendation that I can give you guys. But still give the awareness of the surrounding, that it's happening and it's not okay. And at least you would have in the future some sort of proof that it was for a reason. And even if you file an HR complaint, well, that's good for you, honestly. Maybe it's going to help you to fight this battle. Okay, so what I'm saying here is it's really hard sometimes. And I know there's certain situations where at school, it's probably like physical or again, some verbal abuse. And when you're a grown up, it can be your marriage as well as your partner. Can like DV is very kind of like a serious topic and a serious conversation to be held over. At the same time, like politics, what I see right now over TikTok and other platforms with the politics situation that is happening right now, that is very much a bullying that I see over there. So I always try to dissociate myself from toxic relationships or toxic environment. And especially, I want to make sure and point this out that you always have to make sure that you prioritize yourself. And you always try to make sure that even if you don't have a supportive parent that's going to fight your battle with you, I would say maybe a husband or spouse, like your wife, can help you out, or at least your friends. Maybe you have your best friend who's going to be aware of the situation. But it's not okay to settle for less, and it's not okay to be a target of this, to be a victim in this situation. I know that most of the time you don't really have other choices. I was watching Gabriela Mora interview with Jen Love, and he was talking about very scary situation that happened to him in SH, and he didn't have much of a choice because his career was threatened, as well as the way the person behaved around him, and he had no evidence of the situation. He couldn't actually file a complaint to HR. That is pretty much scary. But the fact that he's talking about this right now is great, and probably making sure that a lot of people aware of the situation and maybe try to record it somehow. I don't know, like every day buy the small MP3 recorder and just go around to make sure that at least you have some evidence. Maybe try to quit this job without, getting very emotional with the person that is threatening you. I don't know, but try to think of some way out. At least like try to quit this job. I don't know. It's really hard. I know that I'm not in any capacity to give you advice at this point, but I just hope that my experience, and I hope that my situation help you in some ways to maybe find a way to fight back and find a way to, you know, deal with these bullies and bring the awareness of your friends and family members. I really hope so. Guys, this is a very, very serious conversation because sometimes people do commit suicide based on the way they were treated. That is the main reason why I would say it's very serious. If you know that someone is bullied and you are a part of this, I guess, situation, not in a way that you are a bully, but this is probably just like your friend, try to make sure that you do this for your friend. If your friend is not capable to or doesn't have the support of the family, try to make sure that you actually bring the awareness of authorities or your teachers or anyone around, because this is in a way your responsibility, because this is your friend or someone that you know. And how would you feel if you did absolutely nothing if something happens to this person? I love you all so much, guys. That was a tough one, and I'll see you in my next podcast. That's fine with me. Love you all. Bye bye.